Has anyone used Meteor before? Is everyone aware of Meteor? Cool. Both of those answers are solid. Is everyone here a front end or full stack developer? Freelance?
Agency.
Yeah, agency.
We did clients.
Bastard. Yeah.
There's no clients, it will be alright.
We use Angular.
You guys use Angular, yeah? Anyone else using Angular? You'll like it? Hey, afterwards we can all talk about how much I hate Angular. Yeah, have to use it every single project, but I'm a Ember fan myself. Doesn't matter what to say. Well, Angular. Have you seen the 2.0 changes?
No.
Yeah, your 1.0 apps aren't going to work on it. It's I just don't. It's for me. It's more the philosophy of Angular. Like I don't think that's how web applications should be built. However, it's really, really good because I find where I work, I've got to bring a lot of junior developers on, and ramping them up on Angular is considerably easier than ramping them up on Angular and supporting them on Angular is considerably easier than Ember and even Backbone because you kind of have to completely wipe their minds of everything they've ever read about JavaScript in order for them to, or building JavaScript applications in order for them to get up to speed with Ember. But I do prefer, I prefer Ember's philosophy. Not too sure about the community leaders though in Ember.
I'm kind of an interest in JavaScript. I've been trying to learn JavaScript from the ground up for the last year.
Yeah.
I'm just at the stage now where I feel like I need to choose a framework like Backbone and Meteor. That's kind of why I'm here. But
Yeah.
it's interesting to hear you speak about one. Which one would you actually recommend?
So my recommendation for all, this is just from my personal experience, like I've ramped up probably about 20 junior developers from knowing very little JavaScript to being comfortable enough to choose a framework. You'll know when you'll need it, so if you definitely feel that you need it, like you'll know that point. I like Backbone as I kind of feel like Backbone's the gateway drug between jQuery and a framework, because it does require you to set up a lot of boilerplate code, but in setting up all that boilerplate code, you kind of start seeing patterns in the other that you'll see in the other frameworks where they do that for you. So like, for example, in Angular you have like this really cool data binding, but in Backbone you have that, but you kind of have to write the boilerplate code to set that up. So yeah, Angular gives it to you for free and it's nice and it's all magic and stuff. Backbone, you have to do that footwork yourself.
I kind of like the idea of that because I think once
you do, but until you try and do it, and then you're just like, it's really annoying. All right, I'm gonna start. I don't think anyone else is coming in. If they are, this is cool. Smaller session means that you can ask. Feel free to ask questions while I'm walking through. There might be ones that are better suited to the end, like I may be answering them later on, but I'll try my best. So, I love code. I love coding. Like it's something that I take with me every day to work. Some days I might not like the project that I'm working on. I don't like debugging things in mobile Safari. I'm sorry that this is making a lot of squeaky noise. But like I love coding. It's really is my meditation. That might sound weird. It's not an obsession. It might be. It's not an addiction. It also might be that. But to me, coding is like meditation. And every day I realize how privileged I am that I go to work and do the thing that I really love doing. Yes, I do get stressed out of clients and on client projects and things, but for for me, when I get home, I put the kids to bed and I've got some time to myself, I want to code something, or I want to learn some more coding stuff. So when I'm at work, I'm generally working on someone else's stuff. And when I go home, it's do what I want. So in the middle of last year, I was talking at a few sort of London user groups. I was talking about Grunt, and I went to the London Node user group and gave my Grunt talk that I'd been given. And in the sort of after party drinks, a few of the guys were talking, and they were talking about they were arranging Meteor London. I had no idea what Meteor was. They explained to me apparently it was the shiz, so I should definitely check it out. And their meetup was not your typical meetup. They weren't going to have talks necessarily. It was build a thing in a month in Meteor and bring it and demo it. So that sounded pretty cool to me. Except for I didn't know what it was. So I had to go home. I checked out the Meteor homepage. I watched a little video on there, and now there's a little sequel to it as well. And seriously, within a few minutes, I had my first Meteor up and running. I mean, it was the boilerplate one, but it's a Meteor app, and you can straight away see the advantages of Meteor. So I generally like tools to make my work life easier and better, and Meteor certainly has that going for it. Like within an hour, I actually had like a small app up and running, not just the boilerplate thing. So I'm a big believer, if your tools don't make you happy and a more productive coder, you need to find some new tools. So I began becoming a regular at Meteor London. If any of you guys are based in London and are interested in, like, it's demo heavy, it's code heavy, cool bunch of people. I think they're around sort of somewhere between 60 and 80 people turn up per meetup.
That's two.
Sorry?
That's two.
That is at us too, yes. That's their meetup place now. Was at Shoreditch Village Hall, but moved to us too. So it's 60 to 80 people. It's the second official Meteor dev shop, so like Meteor have started supporting it, and it's filmed and put onto Meteor's YouTube. So it's obvious that I love Meteor, but what is it? Meteor's a full stack framework, front end templating using JavaScript, back end logic using JavaScript, database interaction using JavaScript. It's just JavaScript. Everything. It really is, as I put it, the pipe dream that Node sold us. But really, under the hood, all Meteor is packaging of tools. They've taken a bunch of Node modules, common Node modules that you use. In some cases, they've created some, and they've just laid this common API on top of them, and they want to make building applications really straightforward and really fun and really quick to start. That's not to say there aren't any difficult parts of Meteor. Like with everything, eventually there are hills that you have to climb, but you don't have to climb them straight away. You can build apps without ever having to run into these problems. And I think within the first few hours of playing with Meteor, you start enjoying it, and you remember how fun it was when you started. So when you have to climb those hills, you're just like, it doesn't matter, because like I got this far without that. Meteor is about getting started fast. One of the reasons that I personally love something like Rails is because it makes me feel productive. You within a few commands, you spun up a Rails app. Within a few commands, you spun up a Meteor app, and it's a framework that makes building real-time applications really simple, like completely readable. The API is really solid, and you can take ideas that you've seen before in other applications and make them real-time apps. So I'm going to show you guys a couple of demos, because why not? Right. So these are the two browser windows. This is called Blackboard. It was kind of I suppose it's kind of recognised as the hello world of real-time applications. So the idea is, as I'm drawing on here, it's appearing on here in real time. If any of you guys were connected to blackboard.meteor.com, you would see that same thing happen in real time. The way all that's happening is that the data from here is being written to the Mongo database that Meteor comes bundled with, and it sends an event out to all connected clients to read from that database, and as it's reading, it's drawing back on here. So that's a pretty decent application. There's this one that's FlickPals, built with Meteor. The idea is that anyone could be connected to this, and as I play this video, it syncs up all connected clients to watch the same video, and you have a little chat bar in the side. Math Fight is competition of answering questions. Again, quite a neat idea, especially with real time. So those are the sort of things that are that have been built with Meteor. Some of those were built for the Meteor London. The Blackboard was built for Meteor London Meetup. And some of the others have been just ones that have been demoed on the Meteor Dev Shop sort of meetups. So there are links there to a couple of them. And if you go to madewith.meteor.com, it's where people sort of showcase the apps that they've been building with Meteor. So if you need an idea for an app, or if you want to look at the source code for some apps, some people actually post their source code as well when they build apps. So you are 4 commands away from your first Meteor app, assuming that you've never installed Meteor before. You got the hipster curl install. So this is installing from a shell script hosted on the internet. If you've got a sysadmin, they will shit themselves if they see you run this. But don't worry, it's fine. It's safe. Meteor create awesome app. So Meteor create. Once you've installed, you have this Meteor in your command line as a command. One of the nice little things it gives you is create, and then the name of the app. CD into that app and run Meteor. That's it, and you're up and running with Meteor. So Meteor has 7 principles. Data on the wire, a single language, database everywhere, latency compensation, full stack reactivity, and embrace the ecosystem. So everything they do, they have to make sure that they stick by these principles, and they have done since they've been around. So data on the wire. The idea of this is don't send chunks of document fragments down the wire. Send just the data. So in Meteor's case, this is send JSON, and let the client side decide how to treat that data. This keeps HTTP requests small. Meteor uses a templating language called Spacebars. If anyone's ever used Handlebars, so pre them making their own sort of templating language, they used Handlebars. What they needed is something that was more tailored to what Meteor needed. So they called it Spacebars. So you'd already be familiar with the syntax if anyone's ever used it. Meteor downloads all of the application's HTML. So when you package up your Meteor app, or when you're running it, all your HTML gets munged together and sent in the first request. And then that way, any subsequent request is only for the data, even if you're routing through your application. A single language. Yeah, like we said, it's JavaScript. You know, they're really heavy on this. They have one single language, one really clear API, and try not to break it.
Is it just client side JavaScript, or is it like Node?
No, yeah, it's one language for the whole stack. So it's you're not writing idiomatic Node, but you can. What you're writing is you're writing Meteor code, and that gets split out, and it's using node packages when it's running on the server, and it's using their packages when it's running on the client, such as spacebars to compile templates. But it's all JavaScript, so it is writing node. So this is an example. This can be one file. I do hate when people say, in real-world applications, you wouldn't do like this. You can if you wanted to. It's probably not sensible. But in real-world applications, they do like this. I'll explain in a second. So yeah, var message hello world. So this is this block here, this if block here will only run on the client side. So when Meteor runs, this is the only bit that gets delivered to the client, and this is the bit that gets delivered to the server. So you would see this appear in your console, whatever developer tools you use, and you would see this in your node rep or whatever you're running in your terminal. But this up here, because it's outside of this block, it's shared code. So it runs on both the client and the server. So when we generally build Meteor apps, we just create a folder called client and a folder called server, and Meteor knows that that's everything in the client folder gets served to the client, everything in the server folder gets served to the server. Yeah, Meteor's magic like that. It knows the difference. By default, Meteor uses MongoDB. Has anyone experienced anything of MongoDB at all? It's not a relational database like MySQL. It's a document database, a flat file document. But what Meteor does is it does all the plumbing for you. Like, you never have to set up Mongo. When you create a Meteor app, it runs Mongo for you at the version that it needs to run. There's some bits that aren't exactly the same as Mongo, but you'll probably never run into them, or when you do, you'll know how to change them. What they've also created is this thing called MiniMongo, which is Mongo for the client side, and it sort of gives you this really nice clear API. It's kind of like in a traditional app. For your front end, you would create you would have a REST API endpoint, that you would call, you would pull data back from. You would probably, if you're using Backbone or something like that, you would stick it in a model and do something with it. And then on the server side, you would write a completely different interaction with your database to pull that stuff out and pass it to the REST API endpoint. So what they've decided is, what if we got rid of all that? Like, what if we completely wiped that out? How would we want to interact with our database? And it's like, we just want a single API, whether we're on the client or the server, and this is how we want to interact with it. So, as an example, you can declare this in your client side or your server side, depending on what you want to do with it. On the client side, it would create a local version of it in their MiniMongo storage, which is running on the client. And on the server, it would create an actual document entry in the MongoDB, and it's the same piece of code. So you could declare this. You would typically declare this in a shared environment. So in what's typical is to create a lib folder that isn't inside client or server. It's just like a shared folder that both of them use, and you can create your collections. Collections is a Mongo thing. Once you've declared that once, it gets run on both the client and the server. So you have a client version of this collection and you have a server-side version. And we'll get to how those sync up in a sec. Latency compensation. So in order to feel snappy and feel real-timey, what Meteor do is when we create a collection, when we save to that collection, it will automatically update your version, the client-side version, so the user's version, and it will update the UI instantaneously, because it's like save locally, sync globally. So it will save it locally, and the UI updates, and it gives it a feeling of that snappiness. And once that's done, it will then sync up the server, send a request to the server to sync it up, to insert into the database. Now, if that fails, it automatically rolls back the UI for the user, and you can display like an error message or something like that. But if it succeeds, you don't see anything, and when it succeeds, it then distributes that database update to all of the connected clients, and then they see it, and it looks like real time. So it's a nice UI thing. So anything that happens in the database, there are connections that update everyone else. You know, your UI is instantly connected, and you don't have to do any of that stuff. So full stack reactivity. So without having to write any additional code, your UI automatically updates. It uses this this package that connects the DB with the UI, and whenever you put a variable in, it will update. And you also get things like smart versioning of your supposed to be animated. Yeah, it was supposed to be animated. You also get really smart versioning of your CSS and your JavaScript. Like I said, everything gets munged together by Meteor, and you get like the smart cached URLs with the funky timestamps, and you also get this thing called hot code reload. So if you've ever used live reload in your workflows, anyone use that? So live reload is this idea that when a file changes in your system, you shouldn't have to refresh your browser. And the problem with that, it's not really a problem. The issue with that is that you do have to have some additional setup. So maybe you have something like Grunt or Gulp running and watching files, and it's got to send the reloads to the plugin that you have in your thing. So Meteor does that, but it doesn't do it the same way. What it does is, I suppose you could call it a force punch into your application. It's called hot code reload, and the idea is that it sees the changes, it knows where those changes have got to be put, and it just slams them back into the thing. There's no refreshing of the browser. This means that if you have a live application in Meteor and you need to deploy an update, your update gets deployed to everyone. They don't have to do anything. They didn't even have to refresh the browser. Like, they will just see that update instantaneously. And that's for CSS, that's for JavaScript, that's for HTML templates. They will just see it instantly. They wouldn't have to refresh or anything. And embrace the ecosystem. Meteor is open source, and it integrates rather than replaces existing open source tools and frameworks. So, like I said, it's really Node underneath with loads of Node modules. So it's not trying to replace Node, it's just trying to make writing Node applications really easy. It has its own package manager. Yeah, I know, like we need another package manager. There are very good reasons behind that. Just because of the way that Meteor works, it just needs to manage its own packaging system. There's this thing called Atmosphere, so pre 0.9, which was released recently. There was an additional install called Meteorite, which gave you access to people who could develop, so you can develop plugins for Meteor. Atmosphere.js was the place that you went to find. Atmosphere.js is a great way to look at packages. Like, they've got stats on how many times they've been downloaded. They're really good at bubbling up trending repositories. So you're never really worried about which version of a plugin you're supposed to use, because they do an amazing job of bubbling those things up. And as of 0.9, it's part of Meteor Core, so there's no additional install. I'll show you how to add the package in a second. And there are some interesting things going on with third-party packages. So this was announced recently that as part of Core, you'll be able to bundle your Meteor app up as a Cordova app, so as a PhoneGap app, and the tool chaining is going to be all sort of streamlined. It's literally like Meteor bundle iOS, and you get an app out of it that you can then put on the App Store. So that'd be quite good. So we'll have a look at some code. Is everyone fairly comfortable with terminal stuff? Cool. So I've installed Meteor. I don't have to do the hipster curl install and stuff like that.
You don't need Node installed beforehand. Just obviously you need Node if you're going to be running like client side JavaScript, but if you're just going to use Meteor to create something on the client side, you don't need Node installed.
You do, yeah. You will need,
Meteor
Node.
isn't a Node package.
Meteor is a Node
Oh, it
package.
is.
You could install it via npm. I prefer the curl method just because it's the way that.
So Node is a prerequisite.
Yeah, it is a prerequisite. Yeah. So yeah, if I just go Meteor, can everyone see this? Yeah, that's cool. So I run this Meteor create, done, and then I run Meteor. So I'm inside the directory, run Meteor, and you'll see it here. It starts up a little proxy, which is for the local host and stuff. It's starting up MongoDB, and it's starting up my app. And we will go
Do you
to.
need to know much about MongoDB?
At first, no. You can know absolutely nothing because you can have just like the save stuff. It's that really nice sort of streamlined API that's collection.insert and then you pass in an object. It's like passing an object to an Ajax call. Yeah, you can see in the browser that I've got this welcome to Meteor, and as I click this, it's increasing however many times. So this is, you get three things. You get a HTML file, a CSS file, and a JavaScript file. Everything that makes a good app. So I don't have live reload installed on Opera, but it will just change as I save it. So down here, this is the Handlebars like syntax. If you've never seen Handlebars, and this is essentially just saying, hey, grab the template named hello and stick it here, and that's this one here, because if I just change this, the button will change for us. And then counter is a reference to something in JavaScript. We'll call it that. It's a reference to an object in JavaScript, or a string in JavaScript in this case. So you can see here that I've got if Meteor is client, and I've got a bunch of code here. And so counter is a counter in the Handlebars template, or in the Spacebars template, is a reference to this counter. And all this is returning a variable that's stored in the session. And up here we set the default to that counter 0.
Is that a bit like scope? Session is like
Session
scope.
no, session is as in the browser session. So whilst this browser window is open and I don't close it.
But this JavaScript is being run in that browser. It's a bit like this, or kind of it's this.
No, I mean our scope. Let's call our scope here this template.hello. So we've got template.
But the way scope is used in Angular.
Name of template.
Sort of
Scope in Angular is the view scope. So our view scope here is this. So it's template dot name of template, and our helpers are this. So because this is called hello, if I change this to, I better not do that because that might. If I change this to Meteor, like this would no longer work. But if I change this to Meteor. That's cool. Oh, of course. So the scope, as we call it, where we can scope our variables or anything we want to return to the template, we do it within these template helpers, or you can have template events that happen. So in this terms, it's the click of the button, and those are scoped to that template only. So if I had templates underneath it or anything, just call them different things, and you can. Those events are bound to it. So its parental scope is the template. Is the template name. and CSS goes here. I'm not going to write any CSS because, yeah, normally just dump Bootstrap in this thing. So yeah, I mean that's the basic of Meteor templating. So if I show you an idea of some of the packages that you can add, has anyone done anything with OAuth, like Facebook logins, Twitter logins, Google Plus logins, GitHub logins, whatever? No? Okay, when you have to do it, it's the worst thing ever. Alright?
I thought we didn't do it. That's right.
And Meteor, so like the idea is that you can install these packages that Meteor that you can find on Atmosphere.js, and honestly there's hundreds of them. Part of the Meteor core packages is this thing called accounts, which is the idea is that creating accounts like logins and user accounts and connecting with Facebook and connecting with Twitter, these things shouldn't be difficult. Meteor makes it pretty cool. So if one of the other commands that we got is Meteor add, and this is the thing where we can add packages. So it's almost like Bower. If you guys have used Bower, you're pulling down packages, you're installing them. One of them's accounts base. Accounts base is the very basic. In JavaScript, you're able to create accounts, just pass in a username and an email and a password, and then it allows you to create it. But we want a UI for it, so we install accounts UI as well. So I can just chain these as I don't need to install them one at a time. I can just chain them. So I'm going to install accounts base accounts UI, and I'm going to install accounts Facebook and accounts Twitter. So I'm now about to show you how to do OAuth in about 30 seconds. From this point on, you can create apps that your users can log into. Fingers crossed that the internet's going to carry on working. Yes. So it added a bunch of, you'll see it added a bunch of stuff here. This is all coming from the Meteor package stuff. Again, under the hood, generally it's just using some Node things, some Node package. You don't really have to run it. So I'm going to run Meteor again, and we'll skip back to a thing. I'll start MongoDB again. God, we have to wait so long. Okay, this app's still working. So I'm going to come back into my app here, where I've got this include Meteor. I'm just going to include login buttons. So installing that account UI has given me this Handlebars helper, which is login buttons. This is all documented on the website, and so I've not done anything else.
Where did those installed things go?
They get installed here in this Meteor folder, and they get
So still
listed as packages.
Your project.
Yep. And so you can see here that I've now got this sign in button. And now I've got these two little drop downs, and all this can be styled really, really easily just via CSS. It's all exists in your thing, in your document. You don't want to style it within the package. You want to style it sort of within CSS. And there are other packages that just drop Bootstrap on top of this. And maybe I'll quickly show you that in a minute. But yeah, now I've got to configure Facebook and configure Twitter, because in order to do OAuth stuff, you have to have like an app key and an app secret, and you can see this. You know, hey, visit this, select apps, do this, set site URL to this, blah, 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 and put your app ID and your app secret in here. Okay, I'm not going to do that. I actually did this ahead of time a little bit. But I promise you when I switch over, all I did was... Oh, actually, did I? No, actually, I deleted it. Okay, let's do it. Let's do some Chrome so I can at least remember. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to configure Facebook login, I'm going to go over to Facebook. Oh, here's all my apps, I'm just going to grab this. App ID, I'm going to put it there. App secret. Where am I? Okay. Save configuration. Boom. Now I can sign in with Facebook. Done. Same goes for Twitter login, and you can also add like accounts password. So you can just so if I come over here.
When you went to Facebook, you selected an app. That was an app you've made.
Yeah. So it does explain there that you have to go and make a new. Sorry. I've got a few that I've done for.
What if you didn't add any then?
It's you just add a new app.
Oh, I see.
And then you go through the steps that that Meteor gives you.
Okay.
In my case,
so
yeah,
following those steps would give you
that app
then
secret
the
and the ID and stuff like that. So Meteor adds. Let's add accounts password. I think it is. Meteor list. So running Meteor list will give me you can see here's all the core API stuff, and I just can't remember what the password one is. Accounts password. It is called accounts password. Why you lie? There you go. So now underneath, like I haven't changed anything in the HTML. That login buttons now has a create account, which you can create accounts, or just sign in with accounts, and that will create accounts and it will save everything to your database, and it's secure. You don't have to go about worrying writing it. I'm not a big fan of creating applications that make people write a new password and stuff like that. I prefer the OAuth stuff, so I'll generally stick with Facebook, Twitter. There are also packages for Google, GitHub, LinkedIn, almost everything that has OAuth applications. You can just create things like that. So, yeah, I mean, that's about as much as I can really show you in the time that we have in terms of actual code. Is everyone sort of satisfied with that? Is there anything that you really wanted to see? That I'm going to carry on, but in terms of code-wise, was there anything that you were hoping to see?
How much of the benefit of Meteor is because of its real-timeness?
Loads. Like because of its real.
Didn't have any real-time aspect to it, then would you still say that Meteor was a good choice?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's
Just
really
like
nice API, really straightforward development, really quick and up and going. Things like authentication with Facebook. Trust me when I say you do not want to write OAuth with Facebook. I mean, there are things in Node, things like Passport.js, that make signing in with OAuth simpler, but nothing makes it as simple as that. And once you have that, you do have access to the whole Facebook graph stuff because you have that key and that connection to their account. Even within Meteor's context, you still have access to all that stuff that you would have if you'd set it up yourself. Right.
Did it in 2 minutes.
Yeah. This is what I mean about it's really fast. I've like the whole building real-time applications in hyper-speed time wasn't a joke. So, who likes to test? I'm not going to write any tests. But the testing story at the moment, in terms of Meteor, if you were wondering and if you care, is that it wasn't great in the beginning, but it's getting a lot better. There are two sort of big testing pushes. One of them was Leica, which is created by this guy called Arunda. Once you get into Meteor, he's the guy's name that you will see everywhere. Leica is now sort of, I think it's slowed down on development, and the big push is towards this thing called Velocity, which is their everyone get together, let's create this one really good framework for testing Meteor. It's supported by the Meteor core team. They think that this is the right way to go. So if you are into getting into testing, that's probably where you end up looking. Deployment, right? So I've written this awesome app that's got Facebook login and Twitter login, and I'm ready to deploy my app. Where can I deploy it to? So if you're messing around, the first thing that you're probably going to want to do is just deploy it to Meteor server. They've already set it up, and it's already part of that command line tool that you've installed. And it's Meteor deploy name of app, and that will go through and deploy it on Meteor server. So they kind of the term is dog food, their own service. So docs.meteor.com is a Meteor application that lives and it's deployed like this. You can password protect these deployments, because if you don't password protect that and someone else does that, it will just overwrite it. It's a convenience thing. All of the deployment stuff is in the documentation, and yeah, so that's a really cool place. I mean, when I build little tools at work or for someone, like I built someone like a leaving card that was like a Meteor app as they were leaving, I just deployed it on this and just like, it's done. You don't pay for it or anything. It's free deployment. You get free MongoDB. It's not the fastest thing in the world, but it's free, and it's good to test things out in the real world. Roku have a build pack for Meteor. You will have to read up on that. There's a link at the end of this presentation for where you might be able to see that. Modulus, they're doing some Node-y stuff. They also have a deployment process for deploying your Meteor app. When you deploy on Meteor or on Heroku, what you do is you demeteorize your app, and you actually you demeteorize it. Modulus have got this thing called demeteorizer, and it rips out Meteor and bundles up a Node app. So it takes all that stuff that's under the covers and separates it out and makes it a real Node app. Not that it's not a real Node app in the first place, but Meteor does require some things to be in the server, such as sticky sessions. Don't worry about it, but it's a pain in the ass to be in place. So what they've built is this thing that rips it apart, puts everything where it needs to be, and it still runs exactly the same with you got your sock.js and your MongoDB connection, everything. You don't have to do anything extra. You just run their thing called demeteorizer on your app, and then you can deploy it on Modulus. And Modulus costs a bit of money. You can deploy a free version to Heroku, but again, it's one web dyno, very small MongoDB, things like that. MeteorUp, like I said, you'll see his name everywhere, has built this tool that, like Demeteorizer, it's not like Demeteorizer, sorry. This will allow you to set up a server for Meteor. It's called MeteorUp. So it builds your server up exactly how it needs to be to run a Meteor app, and it's running in Meteor. It's not running a split apart Node version. And over time, there are some Docker containers. Does anyone? There's there's a conference happening today on Docker. So Docker is this idea that you can containerize your app so it can run anywhere, and you don't pass around server settings or anything like that. You pass around this container, and so I think there will definitely be, especially in the Meteor community, you'll start to see like Docker containers come up, and you'll build your app inside a Docker container, and then you just ship your container. That's the idea. So yeah, is Meteor ready for production? It's almost the first question I get asked all the time, especially by my manager. He likes to ask, but Meteor's not really ready for web scale. Yes. I haven't got long, so I'm going to breeze through these. I would love to show you demos of these. Please look at these as examples of the sort of things you can build. Illustrates is a project that I saw demoed at the London Meetup group. This guy who's created this, and essentially what it is it's a map of the UK, and you can see, and it's completely like graphics over the top, and you can see the best places to live because it takes all the data from GovUK about crime rates and house prices and rent prices and distances into London and different routes like that. It really is an amazing app. Apparently he hadn't really ever written JavaScript before he wrote this. It doesn't use Mongo on the back end, so this proves that you can do custom stuff. It uses a thing called CutODB on the back end, which is a coordinates mapping database. It's really good for mapping and stuff like that. Scout Eyes is a designer marketplace, so some e-com stuff and sort of social, what do you call it? Crowdsourcing for designers. Yeah, built on Meteor. Respondly is a single inbox for a social team. So it's connected to Twitter API, pulls in stuff, and people can comment on tweets and suggest tweets to be sent via maybe a brand's Twitter. Prisma. Again, I saw this demoed at the most recent dev shop in London, and this is a Adobe CC extension. So it's an Adobe CC extension which you can write in JavaScript. You can write these extensions for like Photoshop for managing color palettes between teams. So a team sort of subscribes to a color palette if they're all working on the same design, and because of the real timiness, if someone adds a new color to the color palette, everyone gets that update. And this is amazing because this shows that just because we're building stuff using web technology, it doesn't necessarily have to live on the web. Really amazing tool and really worth looking at. So some resources. The Reddit subreddit for Meteor is very good. Meteor Hacks and Meteor Weekly, Arinda's blog and newsletter. The YouTube channel where every month there's a meetup in London and there's one in San Francisco. Those all get filmed. The San Francisco one gets streamed live. So if you're ever up at 2 AM and want to watch Meteor Dev Shop, it's always on there. Discover Meteor is the holy Bible for Meteor development. So if you really want to get into Meteor development, buy this ebook. I don't know how much it is. It's worth it, whatever it is. It will teach you how to build an app from knowing nothing to having a Reddit-like app, we'll call it. And the unofficial Meteor FAQ, I don't know when that was last updated. This helped me understand and get started with a lot of things when I, especially things like it gives you an example of a project boilerplate. So my name's Shaun. I work at Nice Agency. This is me. We're usually playing ping pong or having parties. We give a lot of talks in-house as well. So yeah, we're an agency. We build primarily mobile applications, but some web stuff as well. And yeah, thank you for turning up and listening. If there's any questions, I don't know when the next speaker is, but if you guys got any questions? No questions? Your minds are just blown. That's what it is. All you're thinking is like, maybe I can just leave early and go home and build a Meteor app.
I know in a couple of weeks we've got to put that off on our someone from there sit there giggling.
Yeah, I would really, I mean, are you guys interested in building Meteor apps at all? Like it, because to me, the idea of moving fast and just even, maybe it doesn't end up a Meteor app completely, but it's like this idea of trying out your ideas is definitely sort of beneficial. And I think the workflow and things like that are or is excellent. You know, and if any of you are in London, I'm not always at the MeteorUp Meet London, but I would suggest trying to go. I think the next one is next Thursday. So if you are London based, it's at us2. You can find it online.
And how is it possible to get sort of the data, so convert the data that's in a MongoDB database across to like a regular sort of SQL database?
Is it
Are you
easy?
sort of locked in?
No,
Once you start
because
doing something in Meteor and using Mongo and all your other things, you sort of like locked in at that point.
so they want to build like a, I suppose, ORM. They want to build like an ORM for Meteor, I suppose. So it's like you have that insert and you have that thing, and all you would do then is drop in MySQL, and that would still work. So if you've ever worked with Rails, you have active record, which is like you write all your database interactions once, and you can put in any database you want, and it still works because in the background it works it out. So there are packages for MySQL, there are packages for PostgreSQL, there are packages for CouchDB that you can add instead of Mongo, and you can easily find the details of using these online, and you don't have to do anything different. Like that create a new collection wouldn't work because you don't create a collection in MySQL, but the insert would work, and you would pass it a JavaScript object, and the package that you've installed that talks to MySQL is the thing that translates it to a MySQL like or Postgres like insert. So I believe on the roadmap for Meteor, they want to support as many databases as they can. It's just not viable for them. They're just like, well, you can get going with Mongo, and that Illustrates uses CartoDB. So yeah, he's probably written his own package to interact with CartoDB. And that's sort of what you would do if you wanted to. You would write a package, so your .insert would still work, and it would just translate through that package to speak to whatever database you wanted to speak to.